Sticking out my chin. Boom, boom, boom. Here comes a boom, boom, boom. Here comes a knockout. My time is right now. Turning the lights out. I'm going down. Here comes a knockout until the last round. I'm going down.
G'day there, once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, coming to you guys with some more World of Warships content. Today my friends, we're going to be doing a review of the Massachusetts, a tier 8 premium American battleship that is currently available to community contributors. This ship, which is still only being available to such members of the community, is now in its final stage of testing and is ready for review. Well, at least that's what Wargaming has told me. So, here we are, reviewing this little bag of tricks. Like always guys, we're going to be going over the stats of the ship to discuss how this thing behaves from a numbers point of view, the commander skills and upgrades that work well with this ship to better improve its performance, along with some tips and tricks that best put this ship to use in the theatre of war. So with that in mind, let's get the show on the road by going over a quick TLDR of the ship and how she performs. And quite frankly guys, the long and short of it is that if you ever wanted a United States battleship with German battleship secondaries, or at least the closest thing that you will ever get to such a combination, then this is the ship for you. After being completely upgraded to sport secondary firepower, you can get the secondaries out to a 11.3 kilometer range, only 0.3 kilometers short of what you'd be able to do on the German battleships. The best part about the ship is the fact that she not only sports excellent secondaries, but a fairly accurate dispersion on the main guns and some incredible Aaa Defense. You know, the normal things United States battleships are known for. I think we can all argue that German battleships do not sport the best AA of the bunch, and better yet, also fall short with their main gun accuracy a lot of the time, so the Massachusetts steps in to offer players a middle ground, if you will. And when I say middle ground, I refer to the raw firepower of the secondaries and the armor placement here. While yes, this is an excellent brawler ship, all things considered, her secondaries are of a smaller caliber in comparison to German battleships you will be facing at the tier level, and the armor of the ship really isn't built entirely for broadside brawling with enemy ships. Make timing and positioning a key element here of the ship's playstyle, and you will do well with her. And I'm guessing that the majority of you have come for more than a simple TLDR review, so let's go ahead and jump straight into the stats of this ship and see how she works from a numbers point of view. Starting us off with the main armament here, she features a 406mm 3x3 loadout that can project trusty American freedom, courtesy of Uncle Sam himself, 18.27 kilometers far, which if you've ever played a North Carolina, then you will feel pretty at home with these guns. She does feature a 242 maximum dispersion at her maximum range of 18.27 kilometers, which is around the same accuracy as the North Carolina when you compare it to the maximum dispersion of 271 meters at the 21.14 kilometer range when you scale up accordingly. But it is quite clear that this ship doesn't feel anywhere near as accurate as her standard issue sister ship. I think it's safe to say that her accuracy does take a hit from a worse sigma value, maybe 1.6 to 1.7, which does place her in a worse position for long-range combat over the Alabama and the North Carolina, sacrificing such long-range firepower for the secondary focus. So I think it's something that needs to be made very clear here from the get-go, is that her focus here is not on long-range combat. So if you only want American battleships for their AA and balanced long-range firepower, then honestly you should be investing in either the Alabama as your premium ship or just stick to the North Carolina as your stock standard ship. However, back to the numbers, she features a slightly faster rotation speed of 5 degrees per second on her main armament as opposed to the North Carolina's rotation speed of 4 degrees per second, resulting in a 36-second 180-degree return time for the Massachusetts and a 45 turn time for the North Carolina, giving the Massachusetts a little bit more room to maneuver when caught out in those knife fight situations without the turrets lagging behind. She features a standard issue reload time of 30 seconds, putting her at a 2 rounds per minute fire rate, so nothing really special there. But now, let's start talking about the good stuff, the secondaries. The Massachusetts features 10x2 127mm guns that are by default ranged at 7.5 kilometers with a 4-second reload time, meaning that these guns can fire 15 times per minute. That's a lot of secondary fire support for a brawl right there. Fire chance on these secondaries is 5%, and all rounds fired by your secondary armament are going to be HE rounds. So a good time is to be had here with these secondaries. I think that's pretty clear at this point, and we'll get into more about that in just a few moments. The Aaa Defense is nothing short of what you would expect out of an American battleship either, featuring a 120.5 DPS payload at the 2 km range, a 238.5 DPS at the 3.5 km range, and a 151 DPS at the 5 km range, which will be more than enough to really scare off any pesky CV players that plan on getting a little bit closer than you would like. Now, shifting our focus from firepower to maneuverability, the Massachusetts also wins some points here as well. She features the same straight line speed that you'll see out of a North Carolina of 27.5 knots, but does come with an awesome turning circle for a battleship. She does feature a 15.7 second rudder shift time and a 710 meter turning circle radius, so you are going to be again much more comfortable in brawling situations, as you are going to be able to angle your armor faster and give your guns a faster window of opportunity to land a full hit on a foe before needing to angle for survivability once again. And speaking of survivability, let's quickly talk about armor on this ship, and it is essentially what you would come to expect from a North Carolina once again. Her Citadel bulkhead places 310mm worth of armor just above the waterline between you and an absolute shit show, or if an enemy gets a shell below the water, only 274mm, and all battleships are going to have an easy time messing you up on a clean shot, so the good old bow tank is still going to keep you alive a lot more reliably over a good old broadside brawl. Using the Massachusetts' weak yet sloped front armor is going to make you a task and a half to penetrate in a 1v1 situation if you can get the angling right to maximize your firepower. Don't let this disgruntle you from the ship's brawling capabilities. She can still get the job done, she just isn't going to be able to completely broadside enemy battleships and get away with it. So give some time to get used to it. Overall, she has 66,300 hit points health pool and a repair party to boost that will keep you going. More on that also in a second. Consumer wise, yeah, she can't do it. She is detected at 16.56 kilometers range by sea and 12.18 kilometers range by air, so people are going to know you're coming. But yeah, this is what happens when a North Carolina and a Bismarck meet up for a nice date, things are going well, and they take it all the way and proceed to make an accidental love child. But am I complaining? Nah, this thing is a great deal of fun to play, and to my mind is a great mix between the two faction identities to create whatever Frankenstein mix you want to call this thing. This is really a battleship I've wanted to play for a long time, a United States style of battleship that has the ability to do a little bit of cheeky brawling. I've always played an aggressive playstyle, one that admittedly doesn't always work well with the United States battleship line, but I've always enjoyed their bow-taking prowess and their freedom-distributing main armament. Well, with the Massachusetts, you get the best of both worlds, but it must be played with some caution. While the secondaries are much nicer on this ship over what other American battleships offer, you must not get baited into showing a broadside with the ship when in close quarters combat, at least not completely. You must remember that this is still a North Carolina class of battleship, or at least a North Carolina sister ship, and if you didn't know by this point that you shouldn't broadside in that thing against an enemy battleship all the time, then well, quite frankly, you've been doing things incredibly wrong. When you're caught up in a brawl, you really have to focus on balancing your survivability against the amount of firepower that you can get onto target at a time. Using a slightly improved turning circle to shift between angling for firepower and survivability is going to be a key when playing this thing, and knowing that timing is also going to be really important. You could very well be up close and personal with something like an Amagi, peppering him to death with your secondaries, and then bam! He scores about 2 citadels into your broadside and changes the tide of the battle. Remain vigilant and balanced to ensure that you live to see another day. And on the theme of being vigilant, any attempt to get into a brawling distance should be well planned out here in the Massachusetts. With German battleships, you might be just a little bit used to simply charging in and getting within fisticuff distances as fast as you can, because, you know, with their turtleback armor and just their general playstyle, you can do that quite confidently, within respect. However, with the Massachusetts, you really need to take care of this ship as she gets in close, sort of caress her into getting in nice and close, because you need to keep in mind where your allies are and how many enemies and what kind of enemies you're going to be facing when you get into those fisticuff distances. Now, while this is an American battleship with an emphasis on brawling, you have to remember that this is also an American battleship that has American battleship guns. Mind you, less accurate versions of the guns that you might be used to, but they still work the same overall, and such guns are really effective at their medium range. In fact, they're probably best at medium range. So blindly charging into CQC isn't a necessity with the ship because, well, you have what I would consider to be more reliable guns over what your German counterparts have access to. Just don't think that because you're playing a ship with brawling capabilities that you should forget about sitting back for a while. Wait until the time is right, and don't be afraid to sit back and take shop with your still formidable long-range firepower. Another unique factor of the ship is an absolutely absurd reload time on the repair party ability. I think you're looking at around about a 40-second repair party reload time, which is just bloody filthy, and we'll see you be able to quickly turn the tide of battle in a close quarters battle at least by repairing your damage multiple times in a single engagement. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I've actually done it a couple of times in this ship, and it's just, again, ridiculous. Overall, this is a premium ship that I've enjoyed a lot. Her playstyle is a neat mesh between what could be my two favourite ship lines in the entire game, and it works very nicely. You can confidently engage enemies in close quarters combat. Hell, I've even pushed destroyers off of capture points with this thing, for Christ's sakes. And your medium range combat effectiveness doesn't take too much of a hit as a result, which as a result ends up being a really powerful ship when played correctly and doesn't feel horrendously broken, which is a good start to making everyone happy. But let's quickly go over some of the upgrades and commander skills that we can apply to this ship to make her just feel a little bit better. As far as my upgrades are concerned, I took Auxiliary Armament Mod 1 to further ensure the well-being of our precious Secondaries and AA, along with Damage Control Systems Mod 1 for added tankiness. Secondary Battery Mod 2 came out next, and this was a clear as day decision, as this was required to get the secondaries out to that glorious 11.3 kilometer range. Damage Control System Mod 2, followed by Concealment Systems Mod 1, completes the build of the ship from an upgrades perspective, with the idea of just adding a little bit more tankiness to her when in those brawling situations, as well as just giving her a little bit more ability to disengage if required. Now, as for my commander, I had two builds that differed by one skill choice, and it really depended on whether I wanted to focus my commander on brutalizing one poor enemy ship relentlessly, or going for more of a crowd control role. To get things started, I decided to take Preventative Maintenance, High Alert, Basic, and Advanced Firing Training. That was my basic lineup of skills just to get the ship started overall. Beyond that, grabbing Adrenaline Rush and Demolition Expert will help you to further improve your brawling effectiveness, which is where we arrive at the split of you, if you will, depending on what you're planning on doing. If you want to look at an enemy in the eye and tell them to go fuck themselves in particular, then take a Manual Fire Control for Secondary Armament to just rain fire down on a poor soul and send them straight to destination fucked. Or, if you prefer to take on more of a chaotic route and just fire your guns in all directions at once, then Inertia Fuse for HE shells will see you score more damage on targets overall, but will see your shots spray and pray a little bit more. It does depend on where you want to play your focus. With that said though, considering we were talking on the idea of being a little bit more vigilant with your brawling escapades, if you will, I'm more inclined to take Manual Fire Control and just focus down on singular targets as opposed to going for crowd control, because by doing crowd control you're more likely to run into a situation when you're simply going to be sent down to Dave Jones' locker by overwhelming firepower. Anyway guys, with all that said, that wraps up today's review of the Massachusetts Tier 8 Premium American Battleship. Guys, I hope you did enjoy today's review, and if you guys like the look of the ship, if you enjoyed today's review, if you've got any feedback for me, do feel free to leave a like and drop a comment down in the comment section down below. If you think I was completely off the mark with this video and think I was completely wrong about the Massachusetts, then also feel free to leave a comment down below and offer me some feedback. Hell, dislike the video if you like, I don't really mind. It's all up to you guys and your feedback that makes this content, so I really do appreciate any feedback in the comment section down below, guys. As per always, social media links are in the description down below, guys, to keep an eye out on. Just make sure to follow those if you want to keep up to date with all things I'm doing here on the internet, to keep up to date with video releases, and to keep up to date with all things on my Twitch stream as well. But of course, guys, the easiest way to keep up with my YouTube channel is to subscribe, so be sure to backhand the subscribe button if you find yourself backhanding that like button whilst you're at it. Once again, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I'll be seeing you all next time. Take care, guys. Have a good